Most men think they know how to kiss a woman, but after 15 years as a urologist specializing in intimate health, I can tell you this shocking truth. 90% of men are kissing all the wrong places. They focus on the obvious spots while completely missing the three hidden zones that can send waves of pleasure through her entire nervous system and create an emotional bond so deep she'll crave your touch for days afterward. I'm Dr. Sophie Clarke, and today I'm going to show you exactly where these spots are, why they work on both a physical and emotional level, and how kissing them correctly can awaken something in her that goes far beyond simple attraction. These aren't just random places on her body, they're neurological pathways directly connected to her brain's pleasure and bonding centers. And when you understand the science behind why they work, you'll never approach intimacy the same way again. But here's what most men don't realize. As we age, especially after 50, our approach to intimacy needs to change completely. The rushed, aggressive techniques that might have worked in our younger years can actually work against us. Now, women at this stage of life aren't looking for someone to prove their masculinity through force or speed. They want presence. They want intention. They want a man who understands that true intimacy starts in the mind, moves to the heart, and only then reaches the body. The three spots I'm about to reveal work because they tap into something much deeper than physical sensation. They access her emotional memory, trigger the release of bonding hormones, and create a sense of safety that allows her to open up in ways you've never experienced. And the best part, these techniques become more powerful with age, not less, because maturity brings patience, and patience is exactly what these spots require. Let me start with the first spot. And this one might surprise you because it's not where most men think to focus their attention. It's the soft hollow at the base of her throat, right where her collarbones meet. This tiny depression sits directly above her heart, and beneath the surface lies one of the most sensitive nerve clusters in the female body. When you kiss this spot correctly, you're not just touching skin, you're sending signals directly to her vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve that connects her brain to her heart, lungs, and digestive system. This nerve controls her body's relaxation response, and when it's activated through gentle touch, it triggers the release of oxytocin, the hormone responsible for bonding and trust. But here's the key. This spot requires absolute gentleness. The skin here is delicate, almost paper thin, and beneath it lies her windpipe and major blood vessels. When you press your lips here, you're touching one of the most vulnerable parts of her body. And that vulnerability is exactly what makes it so powerful. Think about it from her perspective. She can't see what you're doing. She has to trust you completely. And when you honor that trust with soft, intentional kisses, you're telling her something profound without saying a word. You're saying, I see how delicate you are, and I will treat you with the care you deserve. Most men rush past this spot or press too hard, missing the entire point. They think more pressure equals more pleasure, but with this area, the opposite is true. The lighter your touch, the more intense her response. Start by simply resting your lips against the hollow for a few seconds. Let her feel your breath. Then place the softest possible kiss, almost like you're kissing a soap bubble that might burst if you're not careful. What happens next is remarkable. Her breathing will deepen, her shoulders will relax. You'll feel her body soften against you, as her nervous system switches from alertness to receptivity. This isn't just physical relaxation, it's emotional surrender. And once a woman feels safe enough to surrender, everything changes. The second spot is even more surprising because it's hidden in plain sight. It's the skin just above her pulse point on her wrist, about 2 inches up from where her hand meets her forearm. This area contains what medical professionals call the superficial radial nerve, and it's directly connected to the same neural pathways that control sexual arousal. When you kiss this spot, you're essentially sending a direct message to her brain's pleasure centers. But unlike more obvious erogenous zones, This spot doesn't trigger immediate physical arousal. Instead, it creates what researchers call anticipatory pleasure, a building sense of excitement that spreads slowly through her entire body. The reason this works so well is because it's completely unexpected. Most men never think to kiss a woman's forearm, which is exactly what makes it so effective. When you take her hand during conversation, perhaps while you're sitting together, and suddenly bring her wrist to your lips, you're doing something that catches her completely off guard. But the power isn't just in the surprise. The skin on the inner forearm is incredibly sensitive because it's rarely touched by anything except clothing. It has a high concentration of nerve endings that are essentially dormant most of the time. When you activate them with gentle kisses, you're waking up sensations she's probably never felt before. Here's how to do it correctly. Take her hand as if you're going to hold it, but instead of interlacing your fingers, gently turn her wrist upward. Look into her eyes for a moment. Then slowly bring her forearm to your lips. Start about 2 inches above her wrist and place a series of soft, slow kisses moving upwards toward her elbow. Each kiss should last about 3 seconds, and you should pause between them to let the sensation build. What you're doing is creating what neurologists call a sensory cascade, a chain reaction of nerve signals that starts at her forearm and spreads throughout her nervous system. Many women describe this feeling as electric tingles that seem to move through their entire body. And because this area is so rarely stimulated, the sensation is incredibly intense despite the gentle touch. The third spot is perhaps the most powerful of all, but it's also the riskiest because it requires perfect timing and absolute trust. It's the soft skin on the inside of her upper thigh, about 4 in above her knee. This area is part of what medical textbooks call the femoral triangle, a region rich with blood vessels, lymph nodes, and nerve endings that connect directly to her pelvic region. When kissed correctly, this spot can create sensations that radiate upward through her entire pelvic area, creating a kind of full-body arousal that builds slowly and intensely. But here's the crucial part. This spot should never be your first move. It only works when she's already completely relaxed and trusting. If you try to kiss this area too early before she's emotionally ready, it can feel invasive rather than intimate. The reason this spot is so powerful lies in its connection to the femoral nerve, which branches out from her spinal cord and controls sensation throughout her entire pelvic region. When you stimulate this nerve through gentle kisses on her inner thigh, you're essentially sending pleasure signals directly to the same neural pathways involved in sexual climax. But the emotional component is just as important as the physical. The inner thigh is an incredibly vulnerable area. It's soft, it's hidden, and for many women, it's a source of self-consciousness. When you kiss this area with reverence, rather than hunger, you're telling her that you find every part of her beautiful, even the parts she might feel uncertain about. The technique here requires patience and attention to her responses. Start by kissing her knee, then very slowly work your way upward with soft, light kisses. Pay attention to her breathing, the tension in her muscles, the way she responds to each touch. If she tenses up or pulls away, stop immediately and return to safer areas. But if she relaxes into your touch, you can continue upward, always maintaining that gentle, reverent approach. What makes these 3 spots so effective isn't just their physical sensitivity. It's the psychological impact of focusing on areas that most men completely ignore. When you kiss the hollow of her throat, her inner forearm, and her inner thigh, you're showing her that you're not just interested in the obvious places. You're interested in discovering every part of her body, including the hidden spots that no one else has ever paid attention to. This kind of attention creates what psychologists call felt sense of being seen, the profound emotional experience of feeling truly noticed and appreciated for who you are, not just what you look like. For women, especially as they age, this feeling is incredibly rare and incredibly powerful. But there's another layer to this that's crucial for men over 50 to understand. These techniques work because they require the kind of patience and mindfulness that comes with maturity. Younger men are often too eager, too focused on reaching the destination rather than enjoying the process. But when you have the confidence that comes with experience, you can slow down and truly savor these moments of connection. The key to all of this is understanding that arousal for women, especially mature women, is primarily mental and emotional. Physical technique is important, but it's secondary to the feeling of safety, trust, and being cherished that you create through your approach. When you kiss these hidden spots with intention and reverence, you're not just stimulating nerve endings, you're creating an emotional experience that can be more powerful than any physical sensation. Let me give you some practical guidance on timing and context. These techniques work best when they're woven naturally into moments of connection rather than used as isolated moves. For example, the throat kiss works beautifully when you're holding her from behind, perhaps while she's cooking or looking out a window. The forearm kiss can happen naturally when you're sitting together talking, maybe after taking her hand to emphasize a point. The inner thigh kiss should only happen during intimate moments when you're already physically close and she's completely relaxed. The environment matters too. These aren't techniques for rushed encounters or uncomfortable settings. They require time, privacy, and a sense of safety. Soft lighting, comfortable temperature, and freedom from interruption all contribute to creating the right atmosphere for this kind of intimate connection. Remember, the goal isn't just physical pleasure. It's creating an emotional bond that makes her feel cherished, appreciated, and desired for who she truly is. When you focus on these hidden spots rather than the obvious ones, you're telling her that you're interested in discovering all of her, not just the parts that other men have focused on. The science behind why this works is fascinating. These areas are rich with what neurologists call seat tactile afferents, specialized nerve fibers that respond specifically to gentle, caring touch. Unlike the nerve fibers that respond to pressure or temperature, these fibers are designed to detect the kind of touch that signals safety and affection. When you activate them through gentle kisses, you're literally triggering her brain's bonding and attachment systems. This is why these techniques become more powerful with age rather than less. As we mature, we become better at the kind of patient, mindful touch that activates these special nerve fibers. We're less focused on our own immediate gratification and more capable of creating the kind of emotional safety that allows deep intimacy to flourish. For men over 50, understanding this can be life-changing. It means that whatever physical changes you might be experiencing, whatever insecurities you might have about your body or your performance, you have access to something more powerful than youthful vigor. You have the capacity for the kind of deep, patient intimacy that creates lasting emotional bonds. The woman in your life, whether she's a long-term partner or someone new, isn't looking for you to perform like a 25-year-old. She's looking for you to connect with her like the mature, experienced man you are. She wants to feel seen, appreciated, and cherished. And these three kissing spots, when approached with the right mindset, can create exactly that feeling. But remember, technique without genuine caring is just manipulation. These spots work because they're expressions of real appreciation and desire to connect. If you're just going through the motions, she'll sense it. The power comes from the genuine intention to honor and cherish her, not from the mechanical application of technique. As you begin to incorporate these approaches into your intimate life, pay attention to her responses. Every woman is different, and what works for one might not work for another. The key is to remain present and attentive, always responding to her cues rather than following a script. These three hidden spots, the hollow of her throat, her inner forearm, and her inner thigh, can open doors to a level of intimacy you might never have experienced. but they're just the beginning. When you approach intimacy with this kind of mindfulness and intention, every touch becomes an opportunity for connection. Every kiss becomes a conversation, and every moment of physical closeness becomes a chance to deepen the emotional bond between you. The beauty of these techniques is that they get better with practice, not because you're perfecting a skill, but because you're deepening your capacity for the kind of present, caring attention that makes them work. This is intimacy for the mature man, not about proving yourself, but about truly connecting with another human being in all her complexity and beauty.